for discussion.
Mayor, I have a comment.
Go ahead. Who was first?
I just had a quick question, Mr. Neb. So when you say this 5-year study, so the answer goes to the record, is this study gonna be the same core and method as the future studies as in this past study? Just don't wanna blindside the industry and saying, well, that study, said this, now we're gonna study on other stuff.
Yeah, and Mayor and Council Member, we can adjust how the study is done and what is the most important pieces within there, because we could go out and just do a comparable study and just check the market. And what this study did is that it went into a lot greater detail for that, because we hadn't done one for such a length of time. We wanted to make sure that we were looking at all the scenarios, all the pieces in there. But you know, almost every study out there, you're going to want to look at your comparables. You're going to want to look at the health of the financial end of that, and look through that. So I will leave it open to say we have room to build out the scope of this study. We have the ability to go with an outside vendor in order to look at it from an outside view altogether. I think that, you know, the data all comes from us anyway, but we can do this in that cycle, and I would hope that the Port of Entry Committee would help establish what we would want to look at for that purpose. I don't think the next one has to be as in depth of where we were looking at the number of vehicles. We were looking at a lot of different pieces. Some of that information would be good, but I think that I would recommend just keeping it kind of fluid, but established through conversation with the Port of Entry Committee, as well as what the City Council involvement is in building that scope.
Councilwoman, did you have a comment?
Mayor, yeah, I do. So I have a concern just procedurally with the way we're doing this, because when we originally brought this as an intro ordinance, we discussed a different rate. So now we're on the final reading with a different rate. And I just think that kind of defeats the purpose of providing the introductory notice to the public as far as like what our intention was. And then Councilman King noticed that the attachment for the details on the item is not there for the public to see the supporting documentation regarding the item. And so it's just a little bit, it just seems a little bit out of procedural for us to adopt at final reading. Final reading is supposed to be final reading of the original as introduced. And now we're doing final reading of a new ordinance. So I think the more appropriate procedural way to handle this is for us to give the intro ordinance with the new recommended amounts so that they have that first reading at that rate, and then get through that phase and then do final reading for that. Because here we're approving an item that is very different from the original. And I do appreciate the modification. I do think this is more in line with what the industry is okay with. So I think we've made headway as far as going from a 30% in the first year and high, 58% over 5 years to a more easily digestible increase. I'm just concerned with whether, and I know Zone's probably going to say we can legally do it, but it's not whether we can do it, it's whether we should be doing it. And then usually we hear public comments, and so I see that there's some people that want to make comments. So I know there is a motion on the floor, but I would encourage us to hear the public comments before we actually take the final vote.
And Mayor, if I could address that, yes, we did have a long conversation with legal about this, and got the legal opinion as to where we were at with that. I would like him to share that, even though you expected what it was, yeah. And then I do agree with you, though, that I think the comments before the vote would be appropriate. It's okay to have the motion set on there. We've done that before as well, too. So.
Mayor, and just a question.
Go ahead.
For, I noticed of the, all the items on the agenda, it's the only one that doesn't have a hyperlink online to be able to see what the ordinance actually reads. So also a concern. It also, uses the original language of going through 2031, which this one now goes through 2029 under a 3-year. So I understand that the agenda was posted probably before you had a new proposal, but is there not a way to add an amendment or because we got over the weekend an email with this new potential proposal, but for the public, they had no idea what they were walking into today. So that's what's our remedy for that?
If I may,
Go ahead.
Can he just answer the
Go
question?
ahead.
if I may,
Yeah, just-
we proceeded forward with the same intro, and from the review, I saw that we're dealing with the clarifications, refinements, adjusting of the timing. So therefore, we don't need to restart, considering if after discussions you might refine it again. So as far as TOMA is concerned, we want the general public to be informed of the nature of the item, so they can come and participate. And I believe we have plenty of participation.
Yeah.
But out of the 78 agenda items, including final ordinances, it's the only one that doesn't have a hyperlink to the so why was that decision made? That seems like it was an intentional decision.
Well, again, if I may, the link, it's the same as the previous reading. It's being refined, and this is an item that I believe would be further refined through your discussion. So the general TOMA notice is met as far as what the item is going to be about, the bridge toll proposed increases, and what it may ensue would be a matter of what you all decide.
All right.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest we bring public comment
Public
first.
comments, let's get a
And then
public comment.
I'd like to proceed with other questions in there.
Mayor, Armando Dominguez? Arturo, sorry. Apologize.
I'll be first. For the record, Arturo Dominguez. We have to keep World Trade Bridge competitive. That's the main word. We know that's our bread and butter. I mean, I don't think World Trade Bridge should subsidize Colombia. I mean, one's 48 million, the other one's 136 million. I think each bridge should pay for each expansion or whatever conditions it's at. I think that's the fair thing to do. I mean, honestly, that's people that didn't go to those meetings that said, I think that is fair to do. I mean, if you're gonna increase 20 cents on the world trade and maybe $1.25 on Colombia, because that's the way it is. I mean, we don't know who requested the expansion on Colombia. It doesn't have the facilities for an expansion. And honestly, it should be on hold if that's the case, if we don't have the money to expand. But please consider that, because world trade, we have to keep it competitive. That's reality. And that's
Mayor,
my
if I
2
may.
cents.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Dominguez. He serves on the Port of Entry Advisory Committee as representative for District 7, and he lives in District 7. I did want to ask you, are you comfortable with the rates that are presented here, 50-cent increase and 25% increase? I mean, this is a significant drop from what was originally proposed, and it considering the fact that we have not raised tolls in over a decade, is this a fair amount? I mean, 50 cents per axle and 25 cents. To me, I think this is a good compromise. What do you think?
I think it should be fair.
Is this fair?
I'm just saying you have to put numbers, exactly how much do you need for the 48 million and how much you need to increase Colombia for the $136 million, which is very different amounts of expansion.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
And I understand and appreciate that perspective as far as looking at covering the cost of expansion, but you and I very well know that improving the port and improving the expansion of the bridges, if we do not also amplify the infrastructure in the port, which we know that we have to provide matching funds, for those federal monies and working with MPO, we have to have also some of our local monies into this infrastructure. We're looking at $1 billion phase one for the elevated Mines Road project that's coming. This increase doesn't necessarily have to cover only the expansion. It would also allow us to have monies to be able to improve the port overall. We have $5 million in the budget for timing of the lights, as we've been talking about for a long time. We've always relied on TxDOT for those types of things, and here we are as a city. You know, a lot of people think that we get federal monies for these things, and we don't. And so we're having to put this money. But you and I know very well that the timing of the lights on Mines Road is going to help significantly for moving the traffic. So, considering the fact that we're not just looking at the cost for the expansion, and having additional monies for those types of projects, would you say that a 50-cent increase would be fair for us to accumulate revenues for those types of initiatives?
We just saw this for the first time.
Right.
But whatever is for both bridges, you consider that in their cost. I'm just saying it's the majority. Those expansions is the majority of 240 or $244 million. I'm just saying, just be fair. That's all we're asking, be fair. I mean, it's never a good time, but we have to do it, and we have to stay competitive. That's, I'm not complaining, it's just an idea that I've never heard, and some of my colleagues said, well, it should be fair, that's it.
Right.
Thank you.
One of the things before we go,
Yes, sir.
both bridges are intertwined. When one bridge goes down, we use the other one to supplement it. We've had those situations where we have a backlog of traffic when one bridge goes down on either on the Mexican side or the U.S. side. Usually it's on the Mexican side. But we have to keep the importance of both bridges being important, because when that happens, one bridge supplies the other one.
As an alternative, it is good, but it only has a capacity like for 4,500 trucks a day. So it doesn't meet the whole requirement of both bridges. But then again, that's the closest. I think it's a good idea also to speak to the port director to see what we need to do to expand the inside or the import lot of our Columbia Bridge.
Right.
Because it is necessary. Thank you so much.
Right,
Do
thank
you have
you.
any questions?
Next.
No, well, I'll let the presentations go through before,
Okay, Mr.
because you might answer some of the
Ceballos.
questions, sir.
Jose Ceballos. So,
Ceballos.
what are you, respectfully, what are you all approving tonight? Because we haven't seen this. What is, so procedurally, I think, and I agree with you, and it's not that we're, or at least I personally, I'm not trying to delay a decision. I think I've tried to be helpful. This is like my 5th meeting. I've said that a couple of times back, but we keep coming to meetings without, where's the ordinance? How much are you leveraging? Can anybody answer that? How much are we leveraging with this change from the last meeting? Those are the questions that I think need to be answered. So for me, we were trying to leverage 240 million, right? Are we?
Not necessarily. It's
Well, those are the questions that I have. I haven't seen what's being proposed.
well. I think what we're talking about is just, Mayor, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
just raising the tolls to keep up, to cover the increased costs. And I understand the argument for the growth and everything, and I understand that right now might not be a good time because of all the political circumstances at the federal level. But we do have costs that we need to cover, and we do have trying to be proactive here. I understand Columbia doesn't need an expansion right now, but as we've seen, the delayed costs as far as inflation are a lot more expensive. It's cheaper to do it now than it is to do it if we're going to eventually need it. And so I think that's what we're talking about here on this chart.
So, as a procedure, when we click on that link to see what the ordinance or what the projection was, right? The workshop we had before this, we went through the exercise of learning about what would get funded construction-wise, what's being funded with this revision. Those are my questions. What's included? Because for me, World Trade Bridge is way behind schedule on the expansion, right? So, and I agree, we don't want to get that way behind with Columbia Bridge, but it's at a time where we're trying to raise capital to get everything done with probably the most uncertainty that we've had in a long time related to overall trade
Right.
and the market.
Mayor.
So,
Mayor, do we have, just for management, do we have, some clarification, some numbers? Do we have them, like, right now to show?
Mr. Hinojosa might give us an insight on that. Mr. Hinojosa, are you there?
Oh, Mayor, if I may, I'm just,
Yeah.
what they're trying to figure out is where that money's, to break down the money that where they're gonna use.
Yeah, so,
we're gonna use for
Yeah,
city.
we can bring up any of the experts as well too, Mayor, if necessary. $236 million worth of capital was listed in the study for that. That included the World Trade Bridge, which the World Trade Bridge, we were hopeful that it would start construction in January of '27. I'm recommending within this proposal to start it in June or July of '27 rather than January. The Columbia Bridge is set later because the World Trade Bridge is to complete by 2028. The Columbia Bridge is to complete by 2029 or 2030. And so we're utilizing the 5-year presidential permit in a very, very concise process. Along with that, there is a toll software system upgrade that needs to be done within all 4 of the bridges. And so that's what this is doing. By removing the September 26th, 25-cent start of that increase, that's why we're nudging everything just a little bit. But all of the capital can be done. I will tell you, though, because we walked through this analysis as well, too, without a rate increase, we cannot do any of that capital. In 3 years, if we were to try to do all that capital without doing any rate increase, we would be negative in our fund balances within the 3rd year. All of our reserves will be gone and there. So just want to make sure I laid that out there for that. And but that is why we've laid this out there. We actually believe that based upon this 3-year cycle and then the 4% adjustment going forward, there will be enough money in order to cover all of that capital, including the operations of all 4 bridges. I do want to say, though, because keep in mind as well, too, we have 2.5 million non-commercial vehicles that we are adjusting the rates on as well, too, to assist with the World Trade Bridge expansion as well as the Columbia Bridge expansion. We utilize all 4 bridges together as to that system. I think you alluded just a little bit to that, so.
All right, Mr. Hinojosa, can you give us an insight there, please? Hold on.
So basically, Mayor, thank you, and members of the council for Noe Hinojosa, financial advisor of the city. What was originally proposed, all inclusive after 5 years, was I think $2.75 after 5 years. And what is being proposed now is $1.50, all inclusive after 3 years. So it's a 45% reduction from what was originally anticipated. Does it include, what does it leverage? Well, it leverages the capital projects. What it doesn't do is doesn't fund more of the, because of the way the flow of funds works, you're gonna have less money going into your capital improvement fund account. Instead of getting, I don't know, $15 million, you're gonna get $1 million more after 3 years of these increases. And then the general fund, instead of getting more funding, it gets a lot less funding. So those are the two funds that get affected the most, general fund and the capital improvement fund. Would it affect the debt service on the bridge projects? Not at all. The intentions are to fund the World Trade Bridge first, and then Columbia second. So we're about 2 years away from, or maybe even 3, from funding Columbia for that matter. So what this does, and by the way, I commend you for the undertaking. This has been an extremely educational process for all of us. Even as your advisor, we've learned a lot of the pros and the cons, and I commend you for going through the process. Notwithstanding all of that, what was originally proposed, again, was a much higher number than what the city manager and his staff have come to us with. I hope that clarifies it.
All right, thank you. Is the bridge director here so we can get some insight on
can I ask him a question?
Sure.
No, does the the cost of the CPI index increase, is that in your debt service calculation?
No, not in
Okay.
our debt service. So basically, over the last 10 years, CPI, as you know, maybe 2 or 3 times has gone over 4%. I think in 2022 was 8%.
Right.
In 2023 was 4, and another 4 in 24. And that would have triggered a 25-cent increase,
Right.
the COLA increase. So, going forward, we try to take a very conservative approach, as you would expect us to, so we don't have any COLA adjustments. And we haven't run those numbers that far out in 2032 and 2033.
So the reason I asked that question is because if you prescriptively adopt that CPI index, it's about $1.25 per truck, right? Oh,
Well, it will be, I don't know what per truck is, but
5 axles.
yeah, so let's say 5, I mean, I don't know the numbers as well as you do, but basically, if it's $1.75, or let's say $4, and you have a 4% increase, 4 times 4 is 16 cents. And I think the prescription in the ordinance says that anything over 12 goes up to 25 cents. Anything over 37 goes to 50 cents. But you multiply the COLA of 4% times your nominal access price. So if it's $4 times 4% is 16 cents, right? So that would trigger another 25. So you'd be charging 4 and a quarter. The only saving grace, I guess, is that historically we haven't had that kind of inflation. I suspect this year, with the tariffs and things that are happening, you may see that. But having said all that, what the council is approving tonight is a set increase in January 1, on January 1 and beyond, of 50 cents. And then in 28, another 50 cents, and in 29, another 50 cents. And not until after those 3 increases have been made, then the COLA comes into play. I hope that was clear.
No, it's clear, but at the end of
Mr.
that.
Ceballos,
period,
direct the questions to the chair so we can
Yes, Mayor.
ask him to answer.
So the clarity is, at the end of that period, the COLA stands in place. Let's say it's 4%, the greater of that index. That 4% equals to $1.25 per truck, for 5-axle truck. So that's important. It's not the business that I'm in, but certainly there was a trucking representative here before that he probably needs to know that to weigh in, right? To just finish up my statements, I definitely would want you all to consider if it's a fixed COLA, if it's a fixed CPI index adjustment, that it come back to council so that you can make a judgment. It come back, it's still there, but it comes back to you annually so you can decide, is the economy doing well enough that you would want to pass that?
Bridge director, please, if you can come down and explain the health of our crossings, please. Come down. Yeah. Oh, we have one. Oh, yeah, go ahead, one more. Go ahead, do your comment first, please. Hold down, please.